Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Plurk, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Monday, the 7th of October, 2013. This is episode 47, Starditis. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. This past week was pretty good. Mara turned 3. We had popcorn for lunch and dinner and had red velvet cupcakes, which were pretty good, but not as good as German chocolate cake. It's the first time I've ever had red velvet, so it was okay. Mara sang me the ABCs one night at bedtime and it was adorable. And also Gabriel, we were in the car on Thursday. We had gone out to dinner at about 7, bedtime is at 8, so by the time we were coming back, I was kind of getting tired, winding down. It was after 8. And I yawned, and Gabriel was like, "Mom, are you okay?" Because I have a distinctive yawn. It kind of sounds like a sneeze, I hear. It's pretty much how I've always yawned. Anyway, I told him I was fine, that I was just tired, and then he fake yawned, and he was like, "I'm pretty tired too." It was adorable. That's what happened this week. My children, they're adorable and old. Let's just jump right into all the nitty stuff because I got a lot. First, I want to show you my sometime co-host, Amanda, my sister. She finished a blanket. I'm not sure what she made it out of. It might be Lion Brand homespun. I don't know. I'm sure she told me and I just didn't pay attention. I'm a good sister like that. I finished spinning the pink and green fiber. It's plied. It is from Mount Amparo alpacas. It is between 13 and 14 grams and about 69 yards of lace. I don't know what you can do with 69 yards of lace because I don't usually work with lace, but I will find something. This is how fine it is. I'm pretty happy with it. It was a nice, quick spinning project. It was, 2 weeks? Which is super quick when compared to 6 months or whatever for the sock yarn. I don't know if it took me 6 months. It did take me a while, though. I also finished the dog sweater that I was working on last week. Yeah, I finished it that night, actually. Where was I? I was about here. I had about this much of the back done. And then I finished the back of it while I was editing. And then I did the rest in a VKN. I may have done a little bit more during the VKN. I might not have finished it completely, or during editing, but I got pretty close. So here's the dog sweater. I'm going to insert a picture of it on a stuffed panda so you can get an idea of how it fits. This is the Crochet Dash Hound or Small Dog Sweater by Jamie Payne. I used Caron 1 pound in Forest Floor for the main color. It's a beautiful green color. I really, really like this. It's more brown than it's showing up, but whatever, it's pretty either way. This red color is Ranch Red by Red Heart. This is Pumpkin. Red Heart Super Saver also. Brown is Chocolate in Caron Simply Soft. This yellow is Bright Yellow from Red Heart Super Saver. And this purpley color is Claret in Red Heart Super Saver. I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. It was really, really fast. A little more than 24 hours from start to finish with, recording a podcast and sleeping and all sorts of other things stopping me. So super fast. The pattern was pretty well made. It's not very expensive. It's $2 on Ravelry. Good crochet project. Good for using up small scraps. I I want to say I used 7 yards of each of the contrast colors, and I did 2 stripes of each. So really good for using worsted weight leftovers. And I have a crafty finished object. This is Bunnyfish Crafts, and I've been doing this for almost a year, and I don't think I've shown you anything crafty that's non-fiber related. I'm not going to do it forever because I know a lot of people consider this a knitting podcast, but my kids and I, we made this. It is a door wreath. It's for Halloween. I cut up a bunch of, I didn't cut up whole pieces of anything. This yellowy color used to be a pair of shorts of Mara's. This orange shirt is something that I got for free in college and used it in all of my painting classes, and it has been sitting around since. I have some pumpkin black and orange fabric. Those used to be boxers. This black gray looking fabric used to be my favorite hoodie, but then it fell apart. And this black lace is from a shirt that my sister just gave me that she was like, I can't throw it away, but I know it's too broken to do anything with, so I'll leave it with you and you can throw it away. Well, I didn't throw it away. I used the lace and the wreath. I cut all of the fabric and did about 75% of the tying. Gabriel did the other 25%, and Mara did the ultra helpful job of throwing the fabric strips all around everywhere. So it was a really fun project with the kids. Works in progress. Let's see where we are on some big things. This is Cecilia's blanket that I am 80% done with. I'm going to make it, if you took 1/4 of this and added it on, that's how wide it's going to be. I'm at 40 rows now and I'm going to do 50. And last week I was I to the white portion? I was either here or in here. I think I was in here. And then I did this pink portion, and now I'm moving back into pink and white. This is made with random leftover acrylics, many of which I did not buy, the exception being that purpley color that I used in the wedding ring afghan that I finished last week. I'm using a size Q crochet hook, which is 15 millimeters. It's huge, right? Ridiculous. I'm holding the worsted weight yarn 6 strands at a time. So it's really, really thick. It's really heavy, obviously, because this was a remnant of a pound, this is a remnant of a pound, this is a remnant of a pound, and this probably is too. And not like little bits of a pound. So this is going to be a heavy blanket. Hopefully it'll be good for my niece for snuggling under. I'm going to give it to her for Christmas. And no, I'll tell you about that in a few minutes. Cecilia's blanket on the floor now so I can have some space on my desk. My desk is very full today. Another blanket. Did this square on the miter square blanket. I used yarn from my sister. This is all made out of Lion Brand Homespun and other yarns that are very similar in weight and texture. I just couldn't resist that super bright pink. It had to go in the blanket right away. So next week there will be another square. I'm using US size 10, which is 6.0 millimeter needles. Is that right? Yeah, that's what it says. A project that got a lot of progress and I'm pretty proud of. The Nightingale Socks by Vintage Pearls. The safety pin is showing you where I was last week. That's pretty good progress for me on this project. This project is still, my hands are still not quite getting it. They're better, and I actually did this in 2 days, this progress. So if I worked on it every day in this quantity, I could have these done quickly, but I just can't bring myself to work on them every day. Not yet. I'll try. I do want these done. I want to wear them this winter. And winter's coming. This morning I got out of bed and I put on a sweater. Now it's warm. It's still kind of chilly outside, but inside the sun is happening and it's getting warm in my room anyway. So winter seems still kind of far off. We're just getting into fall now. I'm using Knit Pick Stroll fingering in black and a Yarnwell spun in A Wind in the Willows. And US size 2 2.75 millimeter needles. I'm doing that because I'm pretty new to color work and the pattern suggested going up a size than you would normally use for socks if you are new. And also I have wide feet. I had to make the pattern wider anyway, but if I was just doing these on ones, it would have just, the panel would have just been like here on the sock and have all this extra. So I'm happy with how I decided to do it. They're coming along. I'm really excited that I got through half of the flower. I will definitely have the other half of the flower done because now that I'm getting to the point where things look like things in the pattern, it's easier to work on. So I'll finish the flower for sure and maybe get into the bird's face. That would be exciting. I brought up the spinning that I was working on for Mary Lee and put on, I don't know, probably only a yard this week, but I'm bringing this upstairs. It's going to be in my craft room spinning. It was my downstairs spinning, but I really haven't been spinning downstairs that much the past few weeks. It's because I don't have an audiobook out, so I'm not traveling around the house listening to things. I just do what I need to do in other places and then listen to things in my craft room. So I need to get an audiobook. I need to get a library card for the library that's right down the street. Those are all the things that you have seen before, right? And I'm going to get into startitis because I had it bad. It's still going, actually, because I have plans to start 4 additional projects. But let's show you what I started. Let's start there. So spoiler alert, the Mystery Knit Along, The Sock It To Me by Melissa Transtrom. I'm going to show those now. You can just look away and, knit on whatever you're knitting or crocheting, work on your project, and I'll tell you when I'm done showing. This is how far I am. This stitch marker is just designating which is sock 1 because I wove in the ends right away. I don't want to have to pay attention and think to tell which round I'm on, where, and I don't want to double the round. So I did the option of doing the full cuff and 2 repeats of the sock to make them a little bit longer. I'm using Red Heart Stardust in the colorway purple. It's got shinies in it, shimmeries. They're silver shimmeries, which I much prefer to gold shimmeries. Not my colors though, so I'm making these for my sister. Here you go, Mandy. She told me that she can't find her socks that I made her, which is kind of understandable because her daughter takes them and hides them. She takes them, wears them, and then hides them, so my sister can't find them. So I am trying to patiently wait for the next clue to come out, but that isn't happening until tomorrow night. Or is it tonight? I can't remember. It might be tonight at, like midnight-ish. Either way, I have to wait. I can't work on them today, and I kind of want to. I'm really enjoying how this yarn is working up. It's very tonal. I really, really like it. I like the pattern too. It's interesting. And it's worked on size 1s, US 2.25. I don't remember if I said that or not. I'll just throw that in there. Since I finished the first dog sweater, I started the second dog sweater, and I'm using the Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Superwash without glare, maybe, in Fjord Heather. And I'm using US size 7 needles, which is 4.5 millimeters, and my yarn is all tangled up. I have some stitches. It's a free pattern. It's the Drops 102-43 by Drops Design. And you put the chest portion on stitch holders while you work the back, so that's where I am. I think I am halfway through, maybe less than halfway through the second repeat. Let me center this on the back of my hand so you can see. Here's the, nope, this way, yep, here's the big cable panel. Here is the small cable panel. And right here is the medium cable panel. So there's 3 different cables on this dog sweater. And they all change at different rates. So you really have to pay attention, which I like. I'm enjoying this yarn, although I'm finding it slightly scratchy. Not scratchy enough that I wouldn't use it for a sweater, just scratchy enough that I wouldn't, I don't know. I would definitely remember to wear longer sleeves under it. And I wouldn't make a cable sweater for me because I don't enjoy wearing cable sweaters, but I think they're really, really, really pretty. I would make them for someone else out of this yarn, which is what I'm doing. I'm making it for my friend's mom's dog. I just love those cables so much. That should be done by next week, this dog sweater, hopefully. So hopefully you'll be seeing a new dog sweater. That's one of the projects that I'm planning to have next week. I started a little fingering weight monster. The Stockinette Zombies are having a fingering weight monster knit along this month. I'm crocheting this one using US C2 or 2.75 millimeter hook. And this is the first of 3 heads that this little guy will have. This pattern is the XQDH3 by Lisa Tomko. There's its eye. It's looking at you. And I am using Knit Picks Felici in Afternoon, which this is a leftover from Haley. And there's also a leftover of the same color that I got from Annette. So I'm using their leftovers to make this little monster, which I will then give to one of my children for Christmas time, because probably Gabriel. Mara doesn't really care about the things that I make, she's too little, but Gabriel is now getting into all of my knitting, so I think this would be a cool little toy thing for him. Plus, he thinks aliens are cool. So yes, we're making that next week. Hopefully it'll have, you know, at least another head. I have until the end of the month to finish it, which is good because it is fiddly. Making toys is fiddly in general, but I usually do it out of worsted weight, and doing it out of fingering weight with a size C hook, super fiddly. I can do it though. I really like it so far. I only worked on it one day though, so we'll see how that goes. I also started Seamless Salomas by Megan Williams of Stockinette Zombie fame. She took a pattern that Susan Rista 1313 of Girl Cave Bags, her grandma, I think, used to make them all the time, and Megan didn't want to do any seaming, so she made them so that you could work them in the round. And this right here fits on my big foot. I'm going to put it on so you can see how cool this is. Look at that. That is a slipper. I made modification to it. It's a free pattern, so I'll tell you all about my modification and I won't give anything away. So right here, you're supposed to do decreases in the middle all the way up, and I did up here. But right at the bottom, I didn't do the middle decreases because I have a really wide foot and I wanted it to fit across the top of the foot. So I kept trying it on and trying it on until it was starting to be too big, and then I ripped back that last row and then I started doing the decreases. And it fits perfectly. I used US size 6, which is 4.0 millimeter needles, and this is Cascade Yarns Pacific Color Wave in the colorway Sunrise. I got this from a friend at knitting on Sundays. We knit together. She was working with it and I said, oh, that's kind of pretty. She was like, I think I have an extra skein if you want to try it. And I said, sure. So she gave me this skein of worsted, which I don't really buy worsted except acrylic for specific things. So that was really cool. I got some worsted and she didn't have any sock yarn. So I took a few different options for her to pick, and she ended up picking 2 skeins of something that I had 4 skeins of, 50-gram skeins. So that's kind of perfect. So we were both happy and we're both making things for feet, so that's exciting. I really enjoyed the pattern. It was really quick. I started it yesterday at knitting while I was sitting there by myself reading, and then put it away for pretty much the rest of the day. I pulled out and worked a few rounds while watching a movie with the kids last night, but I didn't work on it a lot yesterday, so I finished it up before the podcast today. And also, the modification is why this doesn't go straight up like it does in the pattern pictures. But it fits really, really well. I wish that this yarn didn't have this yellow piece. I kind of hate that. I kind of hate that section of this slipper. I love, if it's closer, do you see the colors better? Oh yes, yes you do. Okay, so I love the colors up here, and this section right here, right above the yellow, that is my absolute favorite. But this, where it's yellow and purple, it's 4 plies. It's yellow, purple, orange, and blue. And I just don't like it. I don't mind where it's yellow, orange, blue, yellow, orange, blue. I don't know what the 4th strand is. I think it's 2 yellows. I don't mind that so much. And I like it down here, but this part right here, I don't really like. It's okay though. They're slippers. I'm still going to wear them. It's just not my favorite thing to look at. I'm going to put it on again to see where exactly it hits on my foot. Yeah, it's kind of really visible on the top of my foot. See? But I can just focus on this lovely part on the very top of my foot and ignore that. It doesn't look so bad once it's stretched on my foot, now that I'm looking at it. I just don't like it when it's a huge blobby stripe. Be casting on the second one probably tonight. I wasn't anticipating on finishing that before I recorded, but I did, so we'll see where I get to that. Is that everything that I cast on? Oh no, huge big project in my face. Well, not the project itself isn't big, but the basket it is and is kind of big. So we were talking last week about the social media scarf that Josh from Sort of a Knitter and I are having a joint knit along for. And it's going through the end of the month, but there are no prizes, so it's kind of going through the end of ever. And mine is not going to take to the end of the month. I picked my colors to match my rock strata mitts. So I found one, I brought it. The other one is still missing, but it's not cold enough to need it yet, so that's okay. So teal and olive, which is called Forest Floor, but it's like an olivey color. And I decided to go with black because my other option that I was thinking about was white and obviously black, right? So the idea is to use your friend's idea. What you do is you pick some yarn and you pick stitch patterns that you're willing to put in, and you go with an even number of rows between some number and some other number. I picked teal, forest green, and black. The stitch patterns I'm going with are half linen, double moss, garter, and seed. And I went with an even number of rows between 2 and 12 because I didn't want my stripes to be too big. But teal was really popular, and sometimes there are 2 teal rows in a row, like here and here. There's a section too, I think, where there's 2 black in a row, but I might be making that up. Oh, there's 2 olive in a row. So making 12 the max was a good plan to make sure that none of the stripes got too super huge. I mean, I believe this is 12 and 12, so that is a really wide stripe. Anyway, this is how big my scarf is. It's, if I could keep a hold on it, it stretches to be my wingspan, so it's a little bit less than my wingspan. It's about half the length that I want it to be. I like really long scarves. I don't want to have a lot of really long scarves. I like having one really long scarf that I wear for like 3 years until it gets too ratty looking, and then, you know, it is repurposed as something for the dog, probably. But you have an I-cord edge, and then you have an edge where you, instead of weaving in ends, you just tie the ends in knots and leave it as fringe, which you could trim. You could totally weave in your ends if you wanted to, but I like the fringe. I don't like fringe as a general rule, but I like the fringe on this. And you can see right in the middle here, Corey iRock Knits put a lace pattern on. My social media scarf is spanning Ravelry, Plurk, Instagram, and Facebook. That's where people can recommend things. She put a lace pattern on Instagram, and I almost didn't do it because it wasn't one of the 4 that I designated, but I was like, you know what, why not? It's right next to another teal section. It'll break it up a little. It'll be kind of a fun little thing that's in there, so I went ahead with it, and there it is. I'm really enjoying working on it. It's like a game. It's super addictive. I started it Saturday morning and worked on it all day Saturday to the detriment of pretty much every other project. And then I worked on other things yesterday, like the mystery socks. I did a full pattern repeat yesterday. It's like, I need to work on other things. So I haven't worked on it at all today, but I'm probably going to work on it a lot tonight in the BKN. And it might be done by the time I record next week. By might, it's like 90% sure it's going to be done, unless people don't give me suggestions, in which case I won't be able to work on it. Let me tell you about what the yarn is and the needle. Let's tell you the needle first. It's US size 8, which is a 5.0 millimeter. I'm using Caron 1 pound teal and Caron 1 pound in black and forest floor. But Mom, I'm pretty sure you don't watch this podcast. But if you do, don't take this personally. And Amanda, don't tell Mom. My mom made Gabriel a blanket, and it took a lot of time and a lot of effort. It's a color work, basically an intarsia, but crocheted blanket, and there are 12 of these. Well, sometimes Steve is not very considerate of handmade things. And he put that blanket over his dog's cage one night because when it gets cold, he covers the dog's cage because the dog gets cold. We can't leave him out overnight because he's just bad. He'll like pull stuff out of the garbage and he's just bad. So we have to put him up overnight. Well, the dog chewed a hole in a couple squares. I was very angry when I saw that because I know how much work went into this. Are you guys all horrified? Because I was really horrified when I saw it. Especially because I know how much work my mom did on this. 2 squares totally just chewed up and disrespected. It's not like there was a row that got ripped open just right across. Oh no, they're chewed through, possibly eaten, and they're on 2 totally separate rows. 2 totally separate columns. So I would have to do major surgery if I was going to make this into, if I was going to take out those 2 squares and make it into, say, a 9x9. I opted not to do that. Instead, I am giving this blanket a new life as 2 totally different projects. I am ripping out each of these squares and using the balls of olive and black for my scarf, which is kind of the perfect way to reuse them because they're just small stripes and they're all textured. So if I have to make a knot in the middle of a row, which is what I'm doing, I'm using the fisherman's knot, I think, in the middle of the row. It's pretty invisible. It's just a little knot. You can't see it really in the scarf. I've done it like 15 times in this scarf. There's 40 sections right now, so I've done it probably 15 times. But it's kind of the perfect reincarnation for those little small balls, and the white is going into Cecilia's blanket. So not only is she getting love from me, she's also getting love from her grandma, which is exciting for her, hopefully. I mean, she won't know, and I'm not going to tell her because then she might tell my mom, and if my mom doesn't watch this podcast, then my mom will never know, unless my sister decides that she's really mad at me, but we haven't had a fight like that in a really long time, like a decade. So we'll see. That's my scarf. Join in for sure. The pattern isn't actually published yet, but it's by Josh Ricks, and there's a page in the Bunnyfish Crafts group on Ravelry that has the pattern. Like, you know how there's the tabs up in the right-hand corner that say, I don't remember what they say. Honestly, I hardly ever look at them in any group I'm in, not just in mine. But one of them is pages. So if you go to the pages, there's now one page, and it is the pattern for this. And you could use any yarn you wanted, any weight, any needle that was appropriate for that yarn. And you could use more or less stitches, more or less stitch patterns, more or less colors, whatever you wanted. Join in. It is fun. There hasn't been a lot of discussion in the Ravelry group, but that's okay. If you wanted to make one, I would totally give you suggestions in the thread. So you want to hear what else I'm planning on starting this week? I know you totally are super excited. So for Sarah Rainlover, I'm going to make socks out of this using her pattern, which is called Wrigley. I'm going to start that this week. For Mara, I made Gabriel Christmas socks. I'm going to make Mara Christmas socks, and there should be enough here to get a pair of socks for her because she tried on her socks that I made her at the beginning of this year, and her feet are too big, so she needs new socks. I'm going to do tube socks because, you know, that's where the problem is. Her heel, it fit. You could get the sock on, but the heel wasn't quite long enough, so I'm going to make her tube socks out of that. I'm going to make a dog sweater using the green Brava, the Hunter Green Brava from Knit Picks, which is acrylic. I'm going to crochet that one because it'll be really fast. And I'm going to start spinning another fiber. I'm thinking I'm going to use, you remember the little green that came on the business card? I think I'm going to spin that first, and then we'll go from there and see. That's a lot of startitis. I can't help it though, I just want to make all the things. I was doing so good and not casting on all the things, and now I just blew it. Now I have way too many works in progress. I need to take another picture of my works in progress and make it my background for my computer screen like I did with the socks. That was pretty effective. Sock yarn blanket is hiding under my sweater. So here we go. These are the squares that I did this week. There is one all the way back here, I believe, yes. I love this. This is another Hiawassee Creek. It's called Black Ice. It's got some sparklies in it, silver sparklies, and it's gorgeous. I really need some Hiawassee Creek yarn for a real project. This is a colorway from them too that's something about bananas. I don't remember what the name is. This was not Hiawassee Creek, but it did also come from Annette. This is Hiawassee Creek Dye Works. And I love that colorway too. It's pink and white and brown, and I'm pretty sure it's referencing Neapolitan ice cream for the name, but maybe I was just thinking that. And this came from her too, and I don't remember what it is. And then this is the color that I'm using in the Monster that I had from both Haley and Annette, which is a nice segue because now I'm working in Haley yarn. I went back and now I'm going to be using all those yarns again. And I didn't do as many squares as I wanted to. I have 3 balls on my desk today that I'm planning on putting in tonight or tomorrow. Not as much work as I wanted on the blanket, but I started a lot of things, so I didn't have as much time for my blanket. That's one of the problems of starting a bajillion things. Oh well. I don't regret starting all these things, and I'm not going to regret starting the 4 other things. I just have to remember that I have other things on the needle still. Whatever. I make myself happy with my knitting. I'll do the other things later. I got a new thing. I remember way back in May when I got a gift card for my birthday from my friends on my VKN friends. Well, I finally used the balance for it. I bought the stitch markers from Sarah Green Lover with part of it, and then this came last week. It's from Nooch Fiber. They got new business cards. And it's got all the social media things down in the corner, the buttons. I thought that was cute. So Nooch Fiber, I got, it's 50% merino, 50% tencel. And when I got it that night, I opened it, and I was also working with this wool, the Andy Superwash. And I think I also pet my cat or something, and all of a sudden I started getting really itchy, and I was like, uh-oh, I'm allergic to something, and I don't know what it is because it was the first time I was working with the Superwash wool of the Andes, which is not merino, and I was getting itchy, and I had just opened this, and I was like, maybe I'm allergic to tencel, because I looked up tencel before I bought it, but I looked it up a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was something else, and it is made from wood pulp. I'm allergic to a lot of types of wood. I was a scenic design major in college, well, like a double major, scenic design and costume design and theater. I couldn't work with the plywood in the shop without gloves. And gloves for fine cutting make it really difficult to handle the wood and stuff. So one day I got sent home from class because my hands got really swollen and red because I didn't think about it, and I was cutting out pieces on plywood. So anyway, I was really nervous that I was allergic to this. So the next morning I decided to get brave, and I rubbed this fiber on the right half of my face, and I rubbed the wool of the Andes on the left half of my face, and I was like, well, this is going to tell me what I'm allergic to, so I know if I have to destash this. It didn't get red or swollen or itchy or anything, so I don't have to destash this, which is good because it's so pretty. It is 3.7 ounces, and the colorway is deep. And there you go. Those are the colors. I love it so much and can't wait to spin it, but I'm not going to spin it next because I'm a little bit nervous about the tinsel. We'll see what goes on next. Definitely something small, and then I'm not sure what's going on from there, but you know, I might have something big on the spindle next week. Don't know yet. I did not read Motherhood and Bondage at all this week. I just set it aside. I was like, no, it's just not the time for that. Let me read another book and then I'll get back to reading that. So I started reading Autumn Bones, which is an agent of Hel, Hel, like the Norse goddess of the underworld, by Jacqueline Carey, and I love it. I'm less than halfway through because I have been waiting until I've been staying up really late so that I can't stay up really late reading. I get really invested in books, really, really invested in books that I like. I love Jacqueline Carey's writing. There are only a handful, less than a handful of her books that I'm like, no, I don't like it that much. There are two, in fact, that I'm like, I don't really like. And two that I'm like, well, they're good, but I probably won't read them again. And then the rest of them I'm like, I will read you again. You need to go on my shelf. So they have gone on my shelf. Anyway, I can't stop reading this book until I'm about to pass out, and I don't want to read it all in one go. I want to savor it. I like to string it out a little bit. Do you do that when you read? Do you ever like just, no, I need to put it away because when I finish it, it'll be over. When I finish the story, it's done. I can't get any more. This is a part of a trilogy, so there will be more, but this book came out on the 1st. So there's not going to be more until next year. Maybe, I'm pretty sure it's next year. She's pretty good about getting them out yearly because she finishes the first one and starts writing the second one before she really gets into the publishing thing. So I'm sure that the third one is probably already written, just waiting for all the editing and publishing and stuff. So anyway, I really, really enjoy it. I would recommend not reading it if you are squirmish about sex, because the first chapter has an orgy. Not everybody's thing. There's a fae that sets off an orgy. I'm just gonna leave it there. That part was a little squeamish. I was like, really? This is not your normal thing, starting off a book like this, Jacqueline Carey. What's going on? But the rest of the book doesn't have all of that going on. The rest of the book is more into the story. And it made sense. Like, I was like, oh, I don't love that part. But I do love the rest of the story, and I really, really, really love Daisy, the main character. So it's really difficult not to read all in one go, and I'm sure I'll be done with it and back to Motherhood and Bondage next week. Really enjoy the book, though. Definitely recommend it. And I am just babbling, so let's get on to the list, shall we? The list is 3 more podcasts. Yeah, I finished 3 more podcasts in the past 2 weeks. And the first one, Knitting Den, that has a lot of episodes. It's with Denise, who is Knitting Den on Ravelry and Plurk, I think both of those. Really enjoyable. She's originally from England, so she has an accent. She lives when she started recording, she lived in Texas, and now she lives in Colorado, and she has 2 dogs and a daughter and a husband, and she's just cute. I enjoy watching what she's working on. She has fun things going on over in her Ravelry group. There's going to be a Christmas ornament swap coming up, which I am definitely going to try to join because that sounds super fun to me. And she also designs bags. She makes bags. She has a shop. So go check out her stuff. There will be links in the show notes. The second one is a new podcast. It's In a Snit. I didn't check today if they had a new episode, but they have 2 actual episodes and a pilot episode, so 3. I counted as 3, but 2 officially. In a Snit is Sarah, who is Mrs. Shu, and Christy, who is Christy Loves Wool. Pretty sure that's her name. They're really cute. They have really good chemistry. Sarah is self-proclaimed socially awkward, and I enjoy that about other people because I consider myself kind of socially awkward. There's a lot of content. I love their segment names. They have Faux Show, which is finished objects. It's the Faux Show. And In a Snit is when things... No, not in a snit. O-snit is when things don't go right in their projects, and they talk about that. I like the segment names. I keep considering doing segment names for my podcast, but at this point, I don't know if I would use them. I kind of just like to talk and go through my show notes and get it done and not have to be like, okay, so now I'm talking about this. Even though I do kind of say, okay, so works in progress. Whatever. I enjoy their segments. The last one is Yarn Raising with Malia, who rhymes with Maria. She talks a lot about spinning. She has like the first portion is all hand spun stuff, so what she's spinning and what she's making out of hand spun, and then the second portion is things that she's making with commercial yarn, and then she talks about tools and stuff. It's really cool. It's really good if you are interested in spinning at all. Even if you haven't picked up a spindle yet, you could learn a lot, or a spinning wheel, whichever you prefer. She talks about both. She talks a lot about spindles, which is nice if you're a beginner and you want to start with equipment that is pretty inexpensive. I definitely recommend giving her a listen. And in one of her early episodes, she doesn't have that many, 19 I think. In one of her early episodes, though, she talked about how she was going to have a movie marathon. And Malia, I'm sure you don't watch this, but if you do, we need to have a movie marathon because My Neighbor Totoro, totally my favorite movie. Love Empire Records and love The Craft. I think those were the 3 movies that you were going to watch. And yes, we could have a movie marathon and sit and knit and spin and crochet and whatever together. It would be awesome. We could be friends, Malia, you and I. And we don't live that far away. I mean, in the grand scheme of, you're not as far away as my friends in Minnesota. Anyway, that is what I have. I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string. I obviously haven't worked on anything because I've been too busy showing you all the bajillion things I cast on. I hope to see you next week. Bye.